Toto Wolff has finally broken his silence on George Russell's future at Mercedes, and what he revealed could completely change the team's driver lineup. With George Russell struggling to deliver consistent results in recent races, speculation over his future has reached a new level. Now Toto Wolff has openly admitted that Mercedes would not hesitate to pair Max Verstappen with Kimi Antonelli if the opportunity arises. That statement has immediately put Russell's seat under serious pressure. If Mercedes succeeds in signing Verstappen, Russell could be the one forced to make way. A Verstappen-Antonelli partnership would create one of the strongest driver lineups on the Formula One grid and could make Mercedes an even more dominant force. So, is George Russell's Mercedes career now in danger? And could Max Verstappen really be on his way to the Silver Arrows? Let's break down everything Toto Wolff revealed. To understand why this story is exploding right now, you have to look at how different this season has been for Mercedes' two drivers. On one side, there's Kimi Antonelli. At just 19 years old, he has been nothing short of sensational. 6 race wins already this season. Victories in China, Japan, Miami, Canada, Monaco, and Belgium have put him 50 points clear at the top of the drivers' standings. He's not just performing well for a rookie, he's outperforming every single driver on the grid, including 4-time world champions. If he keeps this pace up, he could become the youngest world champion in the history of Formula One. On the other side of the garage, it's a completely different story. George Russell, the man who was supposed to be Mercedes' clear number 1 this year, has managed just 2 race wins. Last time out in Hungary, he finished a disappointing 7th, a result that would have been unthinkable at the start of the season. For a team that is dominating both the Constructors' and Drivers' Championships, having one driver drag behind like this is starting to look like a real problem. And that contrast a teenage sensation on one side, a struggling veteran on the other, is exactly the backdrop that makes Toto Wolff's latest comments so explosive. It's worth remembering how this season started too, when Antonelli was promoted into a Mercedes race seat. Plenty of pundits questioned whether it was too soon. 19 years old, minimal experience at the top level, stepping straight into a title-contending car, it looked like a gamble. 6 wins later, that gamble looks like one of the smartest decisions Mercedes has made in years. Meanwhile, Russell was supposed to be the steady hand, the experienced reference point mentoring the rookie through his first season. Instead, the roles have effectively reversed, and that's exactly the kind of shift that makes team principals start thinking about next year's lineup a lot earlier than usual. Speaking to Sky Germany, Toto Wolff didn't dodge the question. He didn't give the usual diplomatic non-answer we're used to hearing from team principals when a rival driver's name comes up. Instead, he said something that immediately caught the attention of the entire paddock. Wolff stated plainly that Mercedes wouldn't shy away from having Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli in the team together at some point. Think about what that actually means. This isn't Wolff dismissing the rumor. This isn't him laughing it off as media speculation. This is the Mercedes team principal confirming, in his own words, that pairing a 4-time world champion with the sport's brightest young talent is a genuine welcome possibility. When asked about Antonelli's remarkable rise this season, Wolff didn't hold back either. He praised how quickly the youngster absorbs feedback and puts it into practice on track, a quality that separates good drivers from great ones. It's clear Wolff sees Antonelli as a generational talent, someone Mercedes wants to build the team's future around. But here's the part that should worry Russell fans. Nowhere in that answer did Wolff mention protecting George Russell's position. Nowhere did he shut down the idea of disrupting the current lineup. And in Formula One, silence, or in this case, an open door, often speaks louder than words. It's also worth noting how Wolff chose his words. He didn't say Mercedes was actively pursuing Verstappen, and he didn't confirm any negotiations were underway. But team principals in this sport rarely speak in hypotheticals without a reason. Wolff has built a reputation over the years as someone who plays a long game, with driver market comments dropping just enough to keep his options open, unsettle rivals, and remind everyone that Mercedes is always thinking several steps ahead. This latest comment fits that pattern perfectly. Whether or not a Verstappen deal is close, Wolff has now planted the idea firmly in the public conversation, and that alone changes the pressure inside his own garage. Let's be honest about what's happening here. If Toto Wolff is openly entertaining a Verstappen-Antonelli pairing, there's only one driver whose seat that threatens George Russell. Mercedes only has 2 seats on the grid. Antonelli, given his form this season, is essentially untouchable right now. He's leading the championship as a teenager in his debut campaign. There is no scenario where Mercedes moves him out. That means if Verstappen were to arrive, Russell would almost certainly be the one making way, and Russell's underwhelming results this year make him a much easier driver to move on from than he would have been 12 months ago. 2 wins compared to Antonelli's 6, a 7th-place finish in Hungary when the car has clearly been capable of winning. These aren't just bad weekends, they're starting to form a pattern, and patterns are exactly what team bosses use to justify big lineup changes. For Russell, this couldn't come at a worse time. Every underperforming race from here until the end of the season is now going to be viewed through the lens of, is this the reason Mercedes lets him go? That's an enormous amount of pressure to carry into every single race weekend. There's also a psychological element worth considering. Drivers perform differently when they feel secure versus when they feel like they're constantly auditioning for their own seat. If Russell can't quickly turn his form around, this story could snowball far faster than anyone currently expects. Now let's talk about the other half of this story, because none of this works without Max Verstappen actually being available. Verstappen's current contract with Red Bull runs until the end of 2028, but reports suggest there's an exit clause that could allow him to leave before then. Combine that with a Red Bull team that hasn't looked like their dominant selves in recent years, and suddenly a Verstappen exit doesn't sound so far-fetched. But when Verstappen was directly asked about a possible move, his response was measured, and frankly, pretty guarded. He said there's nothing to say because there is nothing going on, insisting his full focus right now is on extracting the most out of his current car, which he admitted is complicated enough to manage on its own. He went further, calling Red Bull like a second family to him. He acknowledged the team has been going through a rough patch, but insisted things are trending upward, even if progress isn't as fast or as consistent as he'd like. On the surface, that sounds like a driver shutting the door on any move. But if you look closely, Verstappen never actually denied that Mercedes has approached him, or that a future move is impossible. He simply said nothing is happening right now. In Formula One terms, that's not a no, that's a not yet.